Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Kovacs, and for Erev Shabbat B'Halotacha, Mishnah Yomi continues in chapter 4 of Gittin, the famous Tikkun Olam chapter here in Gittin. Now yesterday in Mishnah Hay we talked about some takanot that were made for the benefit of an Eved Kanani, a servant acquired from a non-Jewish nation, even one who was half an Eved and half emancipated. And we mentioned that an Eved Kanani really has a quasi-Jewish status. So he's actually required to observe the mitzvot lo ta'aseh. He's required to observe mitzvot that are not time-bound and restrictions and kashrus and Shabbos. He's not fully, he's not going to say Kiddush for everyone, but he's going to keep Shabbos. So he's involved in mitzvot. So that's really important for mitzvah Vav, where we're picking up. Hamocher avdo legoy, if a Jewish master sells his servant, his Eved Kanani, or calls quasi-Jewish, to a non-Jew, or sells him to a Jew that's outside of Israel, Yatza ben Chorin. The takana is this Eved Kanani goes completely free. The Bartner here explains, based on the Gemara, we force the first owner to pay the money and buy him back and set him free. He is now a free man. Why? It's a knas. It's a penalty for taking this Eved Kanani away from mitzvot. The Lashon of the Bartner, knas chochamim hu. It's a penalty enacted by the sages. Sheyafgeu min ha-mitzvot. He took him away from the ability to do mitzvot. You understand, when he was working for a Jew, he had Shabbos off. When he's working for a non-Jew, there's no such thing as having Shabbos off. And the same thing with sending him to Chutz La'aretz. There's many mitzvot that are only accessible in Eretz Yisrael. And not only that, but any Jew, even an Eved Kanani he's kind of on the way to becoming Jewish, should not leave Eretz Yisrael without a compelling need. It's a reminder of how important every mitzvah is, aseh and lo ta'aseh, alike, that our sages enacted such a harsh penalty on someone who prevents an Eved Kanani from doing a mitzvah. The Mishnah continues, Ein podin et shvuyin, we do not redeem captives, yoter al kadei demehen, for more than the normal value, mipnei tikkun olam, because this prevents really untold damage to the world, because if you start inflating the ransom values, the pirates, the captives, and they're going to go after more Jews and capture more Jews because it becomes very lucrative. And famously, about 750 years ago, the Maharam Rothenburg, that's Rabbi Meir Rothenburg, was imprisoned by the Emperor of Germany or France or Holy Roman Empire or whatever they were calling it for an outrageous ransom. And the Jewish communities of Europe actually raised the money. And the Maharam Rothenburg said, no, you may not redeem me for this outrageous sum of money because it's a mefurish Mishnah in chapter 4 of Gittin. So, Mipnei Tikkun Olam, the Maharam Rothenburg, one of the great Rishonim of Europe, passed away in captivity because he refused to let the Jewish community pay an inflated ransom to get him out, because Tikkun Olam, because the non-Jews would do it again. And the Mishnah continues, Ve'ein mavrichin et shvuyim, we do not encourage Jewish captives to run away from captivity. Mipnei tikkun ha'olam. It's tikkun olam, because the Bartner explains, because if they know that Jews are going to run away and there's other Jews trying to sneak them out and help them and assist them, they're going to use shackles or handcuffs or put their feet in cement, God forbid, or make it really impossible. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees. He omer mipnei takanata shvuyim. He says only if it's for the benefit of other captives in that location. So what he's saying is, if you rescue one captive from a certain building and the other Jewish captives in that building are going to be locked down and put in shackles and everything, or beaten, God forbid, then you can't do it. But if you can go and rescue all of the captives in that building, then you should do it, according to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. So according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, if there's only one Jewish captive, or you can rescue everyone at the same time, then you should go ahead and stage the rescue operation. And Baruch Hashem, just 2 weeks ago, in Nuseirat, our soldiers with incredible siyata d'shmaya, incredible bravery, staged an operation where one of the captives was in one building and 3 other Shavuyim were in another building. And they had to synchronize the operation so that the Hamasniks would not take out their vengeance or make the situation impossible on the other captives when they learned about one operation underway. The Mishnah goes on, V'ein lochin sfarim, we don't buy back holy books, tefillin, Mezuzot, Menagoyim, if the non-Jews are, trying to sell you someone's tefillin, Yotra Kedemei Demain. You don't pay more than market value for these things, Mipnei Tikkun Olam. Because if you pay a lot of money for tefillin or svarim, they're going to want to steal them. Again, you'll incentivize them going after Jewish holy objects to get ransom money. On to Mishnah Zayin, back to Gittin. A motziat ishta mishum shem ra. A man divorces his wife because of bad rumors. Reminds us of certain situations in Sota where the woman could not be tested as a Sota, but they had to get divorced because of these rumors that were ongoing about her behavior. Lo yachazir, he may not remarry this wife. Mishum neder. If he divorced her because she made a neder, lo yachazir, he cannot remarry her. Now, again, this is a Tikkun Olam for the benefit of society as a whole, because if a husband says, listen, if I had only known that those rumors were false, I never would have divorced her, and meanwhile the wife went and got remarried. Or if he says, oh, if I only known I could have annulled her vows, I never would have divorced her. Meanwhile, she got remarried, and we're going to cast doubts on that second marriage. So we say when you give a divorce, it is wholehearted, there are no conditions, there's no regrets, it's final. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol neder sheyadabu rabim. If a lot of people know about this neder, it's public knowledge, lo yachazir, then they can't get remarried if the divorce was on the basis of this neder. Basically, we're trying to discourage women from being reckless and hasty and making public vows. Shelo yadabu rabim. If it's a private thing people don't know about, yachazir, they could get remarried. Rabbi Meir Omer, Kol neder shetzorich hakirat chacham. A neder that you need a sage to find an opening to annul, as we discussed in Masechet Nedarim, lo yachazir. That's a pretty big deal vow. They should not get remarried. If it's not a big deal neder, the husband could have nullified it himself, yachazir. Then they could technically get remarried. Amar Rabbi Elazar, he disagrees with Rabbi Meir. He says, lo asru ze'el mipnei zeh. He says, no, they didn't forbid returning taking the wife back on the basis of a neder. Originally, only from the case where the husband could have done it himself. The husband could have been mefer neder all by himself. That's the real concern, is the husband. But I said, oh, I didn't hear about it. I didn't know about it. I didn't know I had the power to do it. So I never would have divorced her. So then we're going to cast aspersions on a remarriage. But the case of a sage, everyone's going to know about. It's a big deal. You have to take her to the Beis Din, to the rabbi. So that's really an extension, according to Elazar, of the smaller nedarim. Now, what about a husband making a neder? Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, Maise b'Tzidon. There was a Maise, an event in Sidon. Bechad Amar le'ishto, a man said to his wife, Konam, I'm banning things on myself. Maybe he's banning fruits or meat or wine on himself. Im einem migarshich. If I don't divorce you, he's trying to say, I'm very serious that I'm going to divorce her. V'gersha, and he did indeed divorce her. And once they had cooled down, they weren't fighting anymore, the sages allowed this man to remarry his wife, mipnei tikkun olam, for the benefit of society. Now here, this mipnei tikkun olam means the previous cases were tikkun olam because we don't want the original husband to say, hey, if I only known, I could have undone this neder, or the rumors were false, I never would have divorced, and then people start questioning her second marriage and second a family of children. Here, he made the neder himself. He brought it on himself. He has, and no one's going to cast aspersions on a remarriage. So we let the first husband get remarried. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.